Good morning and welcome to Rising. Happy Wednesday by my count, I think. We've got another great show for you today. Good morning, Lindsay.
Good morning. I see you had a viral tweet last night. I was following along. I see you got something to talk about today. I'm assuming that's what's on your radar.
I did turn it into a radar, double dip, so to speak. Get my thoughts out on social media and also share my thoughts for our YouTube viewers and our live TV viewers.
I'm looking forward to hearing them in full. So let's go. What's on your radar today?
Let's go. Well, how's your mental health, dear viewer? Now, if you happen to be a young conservative, it's probably pretty good. On the other hand, if you're a young liberal, you might be depressed. That might be affecting your worldview. In fact, consider this finding that was reported by pollster Nate Silver earlier this week and went viral on social media after I tweeted a screenshot of it. Not unique observation to me. I was just kind of being the messenger here. Here was the quote. Among voters who report poor mental health, liberals outnumber conservatives 45% to 19%. Among those who report excellent mental health, conservatives outnumber liberals 51 to 20. So the young men that Democrats are having trouble with aren't necessarily the ones who've been captured by the conservative manosphere or who are looking for a helping hand. Rather, it's those who report relatively high mental health and see Democrats as being too neurotic and perhaps constraining their opportunity to compete and reap the rewards of their work. End quote. Well, the political implications of that is that progressive messaging about how bad and unfair everything is maybe won't work to win back Gen Z men who just voted for Trump. That message is cringe. It's female-coded, it's hectoring, nannying. Conservatives are winning the culture battle, on the other hand, because more and more positive and forward thinking is a worthwhile message. Forward thinking about our economy and our country. Just think of the sayings associated with young men these days. Dudes rock. Let's effing go. It's cool. It's chill. It's fun. It's aspirational. Democrats want to build their own liberal Joe Rogan. Remember that idea? It'll need to be somebody who channels that vibe rather than the relentless nagging and negativity of the left. By the way, this is a phenomenon I've been chronicling for a long time. When I wrote my first book, which was called Panic Attack, I profiled campus radicals, student activists, other young progressives, and I found out many of them were psychologically not in good shape. They were dismayed and depressed about the state of the world, and big policy questions like income inequality and climate change were making them think the human race was doomed. I remember coming across an article in the Brown Daily Herald, the student paper of Brown University, all the way back in the year 2016. It was titled, Schoolwork Advocacy Place Strain on Student Activists. Oh, it was so much worse than that, not just a strain. Brown students described students having panic attacks, crippling anxiety, depression, because of how their liberal activism was affecting them. The paper quoted one campus activist who used ze/zer pronouns as saying that a panic attack had caused them to miss classes for several days. Now, look, we're talking about elite, affluent college students nearly a decade ago. They're not a representative sample. But they are cultural tastemakers. Their preferences and their politics have impacted elite culture for the last 10 years. And that impact was utterly dominating as what came to be called woke cultural values. They took over media, entertainment, athletics, etc. What we are living through now, right now, is a backlash to that. Young people, in particular young men, well, they're repelled by these politics. They want nothing to do with the depressive and demoralizing attitude, this mindset of fun-killing failure. And for better or worse, that mindset is what the Democratic Party is associated with these days. Not a lot has changed in 10 years.
Self-reporting. Always so reliable.
Yeah.
Let's start with the obvious. This was
Yeah.
a self-reported study.
Yeah.
So in our country, there's a social stigma attached to mental health, particularly when it comes to men.
Only do you think that's true anymore?
Yes, only 20% of men actually receive any therapy or mental health services, which we know can be beneficial to all. It's not a woke idea. It's actually studied in research that if you have an outlet that's not your family or friends, that you can actually benefit from that. So perhaps there's a lack of self-awareness in the
people
study.
go to therapy and get better?
I think so, but but a self-assessment is not a clinical evaluation, is what I'm saying. And so this is just people having to admit whether they want to look internally. It's a little bit of altruism there. Like no one actually is acknowledging the elephant in the room that perhaps maybe you're just not acknowledging that you maybe should talk to somebody or have to decompress. I also don't think it's a bad thing that you're saying some liberal people have this empathy for the world. They think about the people who are most vulnerable and maybe are attached to those causes, like providing Medicaid for a large group of people or caring about people who are going to be affected by the implications of removing USAID. So yeah, there might be a little bit more down in the dumps when they consider those things. But the empathy is not a bad thing. That doesn't mean you can't come out of that and have other thoughts. And so I think there's a lot of problems in this study. It's not like a blanket statement where we can say, wow, yes, this group is way happier realistically because doctors said so, or this group is way
That's fine, but
more sad.
Anecdotally, it completely corresponds with what I see from actual young people of various political stripes. I mean, you're a happy messenger. You talk about your ideas, which are more liberal than mine, with a smile on your face and a positive disposition. I think that's a good thing. The fatalism from so many people I know, and maybe you're not necessarily really on like the far left or something, but the kind of fatalism among very progressive people, just like we're all doomed. They've totally appropriated therapy speak. I'm not against therapy. I think therapy can be helpful for some people in some situations. I think it can certainly be useful to talk to someone who's a trusted, expert, empathetic person with some background in educating people on their mental health. I am not against doing that. I don't think it should be stigmatized either. In full disclosure, I've talked with therapists before.
So have
There's
I.
nothing wrong with doing that. I think there's a naivety in thinking that you can like fundamentally change your personality, that all you're missing is someone you can complain about all your problems to, and then you have this naivety that they're going to tell you that all of your problems are someone else's fault and not yours, and you don't have to do anything to change.
So I'm going to self-report
to you.
I'm going to self-report to you. Social media specifically shows me that there are not an endless number of happy conservatives parading around. Let's take X, for example. People on there demonstrate poor social behavior and emotional behavior all the time. The tirades that they go on, the comments, you understand that. We talked about how X leaned conservative.
Well, go over to Blue Sky, you'll find liberal people doing that.
Okay, but I'm just giving an example. The Blue Sky people are reporting that they are sadder, right? But
yeah, they're really
the X
sad.
people are acting like they're happy, but these comments are showing me a little bit different. Also, if you read the study in full, this is really interesting, and I want to point out, the power of words is important. So when you talk about mental health versus mood, when you change the word to mood, are you in a good mood? The gap completely vanished. So when you talk about overall mood instead of mental health, then conservatives were excellent or very good 48% of the time. And guess what? Liberals were aligning with that, reporting similarly to be in a good mood 52% of the time. So maybe the word mental health has a stigma, and so maybe men are not prone to say, yes, I have mental health issues, as opposed to saying, hey, I'm in a good mood. You can be both. You can have empathy for the world and also be in a good mood. You can have, say you're a little distressed and also be in a bad mood sometimes. It doesn't mean overall you have a terrible life.
Destigmatized discussing mental health. We've gone too far and too overboard with it. And people, particularly on the left, want to associate themselves with mental illness in order to outdo each other in a kind of victim hierarchy that is how you exceed in activist circles. You have to say, I am the most depressed, I am the most traumatized, I am the most triggered, I am the most victimized, and that's how you assert your dominance in liberal elite bubbles. And that has been the trade that we had that environment take over 10 or 15 years ago, and we are seeing the results of that, which is that young men want nothing to do with that.
Well, this is
because they are healthier.
This is not the oppression Olympics. It's just people literally trying to vocalize that they understand the plight of groups around the world. And so if you associate liberals doing that to them being, having mental health issues, I don't think that correlates. People actually are just aware of their surroundings and can look around and say, hey, this is not the best current state of affairs. Mm-hmm. I know this research was done a couple of years ago, so my go-to would be like, look around. A lot of people are probably distressed right now. But since it didn't happen this year, the argument doesn't stand right there. But also a couple of years ago, we were still distressed at the current state of affairs. We just got off of COVID. People are just getting their lives back together. The economy was equally as bad as it is now. So really, it hasn't been a great time in the last few years to have the best, most optimistic view on the world.
Well, and if liberals were still in charge, we'd still be shut up in our homes because there's still someone sick with COVID somewhere, and we'd be on all the same lockdowns, and we'd be even more miserable. So that's, to my mind, that speaks to the need to not have those kinds of policies. Next up, Trump's DOJ says that they are reviewing Biden's pardons. #AutoPen. I think we will discuss that. Stay tuned.